Hey, I'm Gary Alt, Open Path Life Coach. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the law of the soggy potato chip. Just to let you know, before I talk about that in detail, we're going to be talking to and about grown-ups, adults, people like us who are out of the organization or maybe are on our way out. Um, Not so much about kids, because this doesn't really apply to kids, but the law of the soggy potato chip is about kids. What we're going to do is draw a parallel to us as adults who are out of the organization. So the law of the soggy potato chip. It was around the late '70s when a pediatric psychologist wrote a book that contained that, and it's basically about attention that kids need and crave actually from an adult, preferably their parent or parents. And the way it relates to a soggy potato chip is this: every kid loves potato chips, right? Even adults love them. So do I. And of course, ideally, you would want a crisp potato chip, right? But suppose a kid has nothing but a bowl of soggy potato chips. I'm talking about a little kid. They're going to eat that, right? Maybe as adults we wouldn't, but a kid is going to eat the soggy potato chips because he has three choices. He could either eat a crisp potato chip, but that choice has been taken away because there aren't any. So he really has two choices. He can eat the soggy potato chip or he can have no potato chips. So in that scenario, a soggy potato chip is actually a good choice for a child. So that relates to attention. A child will crave attention, whether it's negative attention or positive attention. Positive attention would be things like rewards from the parent, praise, hugs, kisses, cuddling, reading bedtime stories, all kinds of things that are healthy and wonderful for a kid's development. Um, by negative attention, we're not really talking about abuse. That's another topic altogether. Because assume that the parent we're talking about is not a bad parent, not a bad person, but just maybe lacks some parenting skills. So the negative attention that a child might actually be going for would be um, like being yelled at, being berated, being maybe physically disciplined to some extent. And how does he make that happen? Well, maybe by coloring on the wall with crayons, or maybe by yelling and screaming and crying. And I'm not talking about a 6 month old that's crying because of a wet diaper or because of hunger. That's what they do. They're supposed to do that. But as we get older and older, it becomes less and less appropriate that we cry to get our own way. So doing things like that and breaking things and leaving toys all around, things like that, that's going to elicit negative attention. It's going to elicit some yelling, maybe being confined to the room for a while, this type of thing. Why would a kid want that? We wouldn't want it as adults, would we? Well, it's because they really, really want attention from their parents. And if they have to get negative attention, that's what they'll take. Same thing with the potato chip. They'll eat a soggy potato chip if that's all they can get. So we're not really talking about potato chips, and we're not really talking about attention, and we're not really talking about kids. We're talking about us, adults that have left the organization. And attention is not something we should be seeking that arduously, because that's not the most mature and constructive way to live as adults. But so we're really talking about something that's related to attention, and that is approval or even validation. When we were in the organization, we were desperate for approval from the elders and even from some of our associates. We'd underline the watchtower with 4 different colors: yellow, green, blue, and pink, and do all these things that really had nothing to do with anything of quality. But we just did it because the person sitting next to us would say, "Wow, he must have been up all Saturday night studying the Watchtower. What a good Christian he is." So we did a lot of things to impress people. We told them about the movies we saw, made sure that we didn't tell them about any PG-13 or God forbid, R-rated movies. The music we listened to. There were all kinds of things that we did for approval of the way we dressed, the books that we read or didn't read. So we became, in a way, approval addicts. And so the question is, are we still eating soggy potato chips now that we're out of the organization? Are we still looking for the approval from our former associates who are never going to validate or give us approval because we're not one of them? We don't think like them. They don't think like anybody except themselves. So it's not reasonable to expect validation or approval from them. And really, why do we need anybody's approval? I mean, it's nice to have the approval of your mate, approval of your boss if you did a good job, because that's going to result in remuneration, But as a thing that we crave all the time, it's not healthy and it's not helpful. So don't. So it's a good idea to avoid those soggy potato chips. Go for the crisp potato chips. But more importantly, what I wanted to talk about is The external versus the internal. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, is the way we feel. That's how we feel inside. We might feel, as a result of our mistreatment and miseducation of the past, we might feel sad, we might feel hurt, perhaps scared. I've heard people talking lately about not being able to interpret world events. Like they're scared because, like, what if they were right before? So we might be scared, we might be angry, we might feel worthless or even less than worthless. So those are all internal feelings. So what do we do about them? Well, what did we do in the past? What did we do when we were in the organization? It was all external things that were supposed to kind of sculpt us as people and help us make progress, right? It was about your field ministry, what you put on a field service report. It was about how many comments you gave at the meetings. It was about all these external things that really don't have a whole lot to do with our internal development as people. There is a relation to activities, but that was what was the predominant thing, was all these external things that have nothing to do with who we were as people. So maybe we're struggling with sadness, hurt, scare, fear, anger, feeling worthless, even now that we're out. So what do we look to kind of get over those feelings, to kind of get rid of those feelings? Is it external things? Is it soggy potato chips? So what do I mean by external things? Well, not field service hours, certainly not commenting at meetings, but how about abuse of alcohol or drugs? Because now we have the freedom. Nobody can tell me how much I can drink and how much I can't drink, and nobody can tell me I can't do this drug, so I'm going to do it. Well, we do have a right. We have the freedom to do it. Or high-risk sex, or an obsession with sex, or unhealthy relationships that we might get into, not realizing where we're going with it, and then kind of getting too far in. Those are all external things. So if we just think about concentrating on internal things and not on the external things as a means for us to cope, as a means for us to make progress, chances are we'll go a long way towards avoiding damaging ourselves and others with drug abuse and alcohol abuse. And by the way, have you noticed that of the things that I'm mentioning, a few of them are things that probably always should be avoided, like certain drugs hopefully nobody ever takes, like heroin or something like that. It's just, there's no benefit. It's just hurt. But then there are some things that are good things. I mean, alcohol, unless you're addicted or have a propensity toward addiction, is could be okay. Sex is a wonderful thing. I mean, what's wrong with sex in itself? Nothing. But if we go for high risk sex or drug abuse or obsession with sex, things like that, we're really putting the external way above the internal things that are going to really make us make progress as people. So I, as a life coach, I generally do not offer advice, and I don't make judgments really. This video might be a little bit different than that approach, because I'm not talking one-on-one with somebody. I'm talking to a whole bunch of people that can't respond. So I'm kind of telling you things instead of asking you to respond to me. So that's a little bit different, except I'm going to just tell you this one thing. There's no need for you to eat soggy potato chips ever again. So don't do it. Thanks.